Hey everyone, it's Kirstynn. Welcome to Season 3 of the Anthropo Scene. Hello, my beautiful nerds. Kirstynn here. It's been a while. Today is a little bittersweet, and I'm hoping y'all can understand where I'm coming from. Today will be the final episode of the Anthropo Scene Podcast. Hear me out. I love this podcast. What Nicholas and I had made was something really special, but what I need is a fresh start for various reasons. Happy to talk to people if they want to reach out, but I need to start something new, and I want this to remain what it is now. So I hope many of you will follow me over to a new show that will be coming soon. Follow me on my Instagram page to keep up with that. And I'll be sharing some updates later here, so you can follow me along over to there. But this will be the last episode for this show. Now, all 3 seasons of the Anthropo Scene will live on my personal YouTube, so you can listen to them whenever, forever. But I'll be taking them down from other audio platforms just because I can't keep playing the hosting. So check out the show notes here for my YouTube, and you can check out any of our old episodes from there. Now, before you go, I was just going to make a post and kind of wrap this up. But then I remembered I had all of these beautiful stories from a urban wildlife appreciation episode I had asked for so long ago. So as I say goodbye, I'm going to finally share these. So now without further ado, please enjoy these wonderful stories from an all too wonderful audience about urban wildlife and how they keep us appreciating our backyard. Big thanks to everybody who sent me in a story. The scene is set. It's Sunday. You're walking along a concrete sidewalk from your apartment to go buy some food for next week, listening to your favorite song. The volume about halfway so you can still hear a bit of what's going on around you, just in case. Residential homes start to turn to higher buildings, reaching 4 stories, 5, 6, and you sigh, wishing you were out on a hiking trail in the nearest national park instead. But just then, your phone battery warns you that it's too low and you decide to shut off your music. You continue your walk, and though you hear the normal hustle and bustle of cars, people, you realize there's a beautiful chirping in the tree in front of you. A yellow warbler. It's beautiful. You walk up to the tree to get a better look, and you notice a trail of ants making its way up the trunk. And just then, a butterfly catches your eye, fluttering over some flower pots outside a bakery. You change your plans and head to the nearest park downtown. You count 5 different birds on the way, think you see a raccoon scurry into a hole in the large oak tree, and find a shield bug on the bushes nearest the first bench at the park's edge. Wow, there is a lot of life here, isn't there? You head to the center of the park, sit down in the grass, and take a moment longer to appreciate the life you have right here in your own backyard. So, what's up, everybody? Remember back in, 2022 when I asked for a bunch of you to send these stories? Well, I took my dear sweet time, but goddammit, here they are. So today I have a fun episode where we had collected stories from you, our beautiful fans, about their experiences with urban wildlife. And I'm finally sharing them today. Sorry for the wait. So I wanted to do this episode originally just for appreciation of what we have here in our backyard. A lot of us, when we think of nature and think of conservation, I think most of our brains go to the nearest mountain, the nearest national park, a lake far away. But it's just as important to protect and restore what we have here, making sure that we're planting native plants and encouraging native wildlife and, just taking a second to see what birds, bugs, and other critters you can find in the park. So, there have been studies done showing that having wildlife and nature around makes us healthier and happier. So if you just take a little bit more time to try to notice what's going on around you, sometimes you'll find it. So I'll start with a really short story of mine, and I am just winging this. I didn't write the script down today, but this was right after the lockdown. Here in Ecuador, for those of you that don't know, we had 3 months of a curfew at 2 p.m. where you couldn't even go outside, and all the parks were closed. And I remember this being so frustrating because the malls had opened before the parks did. But anyway, eventually we got the news, parks are open, you can go back in the parks again. And I remember we went to Parque Carolina, which is kind of like the central park of Quito, which is the capital of Ecuador. And, we walk in and the grass is all just wonderfully overgrown. I remember it just being beautiful and thinking, man, I wish they would just leave it like this. Anyway, and I went out with my husband and I took my camera because I was like, I need to get out and take some pictures. And I noticed a little sparkling violeteer, which is Colibri coruscans. And they're these beautiful little hummingbirds, and they're super common in Quito, but they're incredible. They're iridescent, they're purple, they're green. And it was fluttering around. And I remember just like setting myself up with my camera because hummingbirds tend to kind of fly these little patterns. Well, they'll keep coming back to the same spot. And this little hummingbird would do its rounds and go get a flower and come back to this little stick. And I got some of my first favorite bird photos ever. And just that like brief moment, sharing that moment there with that little hummingbird was just such an amazing relief for me. And especially after this time being closed up and still this very stressful time in the world. And that little hummingbird, just totally saved my life. So yeah, that's my urban wildlife story. And let me, without further ado, get into the other ones. So I have a story that Jimmy sent to me. Everybody will be tagged in the Instagram and in the show notes. So thanks again. So Jimmy says, about a year ago, one of my girlfriend's dogs found a rabbit nest in her backyard. The nest and the rabbits were fine, but to prevent further disturbances, I went to a hardware store and ended up putting a fence around the nest area with openings for the mum to get in. I got to watch Mom visit the nest at dusk and dawn, and eventually the babies come out. It was absolutely adorable. I felt attached to them. Anytime I go over there, I see 2 or 3 rabbits in the neighborhood and puts a smile on my face that it might be the ones from our yard. Really awesome, Jimmy. There's something just like so special about little urban rabbits, and that you gave them a chance and now get to see these offspring. Whether those are exactly your little bunnies or not, still leaves like a lasting impact. Thank you for sharing your story. And Jimmy also shared a second story. I live in Toledo and work for Metro Parks Toledo. Currently, we're turning an old industrial site, I believe it was used as a coal power plant, along the river downtown into a metro park. When we started work, the soil was awful, and the only living things that you could find were invasive. Now, after 2 years of work, I see beetles, worms, butterflies, frogs, toads, snakes, and lots of birds. We've planted over 100 trees and many wildflower beds that bring life to the park. It's really cool to be a part of something so big like this and watch a desolate area have plants and wildlife return. Awesome. Thank you, Jimmy. All right, from Zach. In April of 2017, I was participating in the Oklahoma Spring Virtual BioBlitz and trying to see how many species of living things I could find in my community. I noticed there were lots of insects showing up at my porch light one evening, so I started leaving it on intentionally and photographing all the critters. I quickly realized there were hundreds of species of moths, and just a couple of weeks later, I hosted my first moth night with a few friends. I'm now devoted to learning more about moths, and I've documented more than 1,000 species in my home state. I host Moth Night every 2 weeks during the warm part of the year, and I have a committed group of friends who join me. Awesome. That is so cool. What a beautiful way to appreciate insects. For those of you that know me, I'm a huge insect nerd, and I think they're so underappreciated, and that's so important. So thank you so much, Zach. Okay, Ariana. 2 nights in a row, I would wake up late at night from this strange scratching noise, but couldn't figure out what it was. My boyfriend didn't hear it because he had night shifts at the time, and he was convinced I was imagining things since I didn't sleep well when he wasn't there. A few more nights passed, and I stopped waking up from the sound and figured he was right. I had just imagined it. Then my boyfriend had a break from work. This time I woke up not from scratching noises, but from a strange squeak and hissing noise. Turned out the squeak had come from my boyfriend and the hissing from a hedgehog. Neither had expected the other to be out on the terrace, and both were pretty startled. We aren't exactly sure how the poor thing ended up on our little terrace since it's pretty much walled in, or how it got out again, because we never saw it again. That's so fun. It's so funny for me being from North America that like a hedgehog is a wild thing is not real life. I had one as a pet when we were really, really little. But that is so funny and so cool. This story here is from Autumn. I'll put the picture up in Instagram as well. This lovely Midland painted turtle created a nest in my front yard. Jealous. We live right in the city, but with enough trees and a pond behind our house, the wildlife is quite diverse. Watching this nest is going to be the highlight of my summer. To make it even better, the hatch day should be around the week of my birthday. Oh, that's awesome. Let us know how your birthday turtles were, Autumn. All right, this is Chelsea. Chelsea says, I live in the suburb of Dallas, Texas. My urban wildlife story starts with a dead plant. I had a dead plumeria that died over the winter, and I left it on the patio because I kept hoping it was still alive. This is around the beginning of the pandemic. I was working from home at a desk facing my patio. One day I happened to notice a wasp flying around the now dry, hollow plumeria stalk. I saw the wasp repeatedly fly by, carrying green caterpillars or mud into the hollow hole in the stick. I took pictures of her and started posting them on my Instagram account. After work, I would sit in the chair in front of the stick so I could watch her. I watched her move further and further up the stick until she was at the end and closing it up with mud. She buzzed around looking for another place to build a nest, and because I was so invested in the wasp I wanted to see inside the nest, I bought a bee hotel online with clear acrylic viewing window. It was then I was able to observe her packing the caterpillars in tight and adding mud walls to create the empty spacer cells between the filled ones. I even watched a cuckoo wasp lurk behind her when she left it oviposited in an empty spacer cell. The large larva hatched from the egg, ate the paralyzed caterpillars, grew larger and larger until there were no caterpillars left to eat, and then covered the viewing window with silk when it pupated. I have seen them hatch and even had a bee fly emerge from one of the nests. What started as a welcome distraction during the uncertain times of the pandemic grew into a new hobby and a slight obsession. And not only did it open up a world of native bees and wasps, it opened up a world of knowledge. It connected me with other Instagrammers like S'morebugs and Maddie Longlegs, and I've learned so much about proper bee hotels and best practices. I've even recently had a leafcutter bee nesting for the first time in one of my houses. That is so cool, Chelsea. I think this really shows the importance of, when we say leave a little bit of leaf litter or some dry stalks around that can really help with native wildlife. That is so neat. I did actually do a episode with S'morebugs with Sabrina on bee hotels as well. You guys can always check that one out. And I'll link the article that I wrote from that as well in the show notes. Thank you, Chelsea. This next story here is from Sam. Having born and raised just outside Toronto, I've spent my whole life around urban wildlife, so you'd think I'd have lots to talk about. And the truth is, there is so much to talk about, which is why it's been so hard to pick a story. From raccoons, rabbits, and skunks in my suburban backyard to the chickadees, house wrens, Baltimore Orioles, cardinals, and blue jays that hang out or nest in and around my neighborhood, to the snapping turtle that laid eggs in my garden one year, there are endless stories about urban wildlife. The past couple of months, one of my favorite hobbies has been watching the hummingbirds in my yard. We've had hummingbird feeders for as long as I can remember, and I'm very accustomed to watching the hummingbirds throughout the spring and summer. I've been posting videos of them more often on social media, and I was surprised by how many friends and family members messaged me saying they had never seen one before. Some did not even realize we had hummingbirds in Canada. A few people had questions about how to attract hummingbirds, including my very sweet neighbor, who was very excited to tell me she had bought her own feeder. She had no idea hummingbirds were in the area and was wondering how to get them in her yard. She'd been watching the ones in my yard for weeks and loved sitting outside as they'd fly from the feeders in my yard up to the trees in her yard. I told her just to put the feeder out with some homemade hummingbird nectar, of course, and wait. The other day, she mentioned to me how excited she was that she was already getting regular appearances at her feeder. It had become a bit of a family affair in her household to watch them at the window, and she's already looking to buy more feeders. Although the frequency of birds at my feeders has gone down a bit, I love that other people are learning about the wildlife we get in our backyards and having the opportunity to enjoy them as well. That's awesome, Sam. It is so cool when you're out there appreciating wildlife and then somebody comes along too. I don't know if you've ever been walking on a trail and looking at a weird bug or something, and then people come by and they're like, "What's that?" And you're like, "Oh, look, a bug." And then you get to share this neat teaching moment, and it sparks something else in somebody. I think that's so important for us nature nerds out there looking at neat things to teach other people about what's going on. So thank you so much for that, Sam. That's awesome. All right. So those are the little stories that I got from when I did a call asking for urban wildlife stories. And I think what this just shows us is taking just an extra moment to appreciate what we can find in our backyard, and therefore, understand it and take care of it does so much. But yeah, I think it's just so important for us to appreciate what we have right here in our backyards and see how we can protect, promote, preserve, and better the wildlife that live with us here in urban or semi-urban, peri-urban environments, just by taking care of what we have. So yeah, thank you for coming and listening to those stories, and an eternal thank you to any of our fans that have been with us since the beginning. This show meant so much to me, and it was really a great starting point for my, science communication career. And it's taught me a lot. I really hope that some of you that are here follow me over to the new show, which is hopefully coming out in the next couple of months here. So please do follow along with that. And with that, hopefully I will see you out in the big old world one day. My DMs are always open. Happy to connect. Happy to talk with people. And hey, if you're looking to get on a podcast and practice talking about your research and your work, this next show that I have coming up is going to be science-based. I'm just hoping to expand a little bit beyond just biology and ecology. So there's going to be a little bit of everything. but of course, bio and ecology heavy because that's what I do. So please reach out to me. I'd love to have you on the new show. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Take care of yourself, take care of each other. Let's take care of nature. And, I'm hopeful with a great future. All the people that I've met through this community are doing really great things. And together we can make a better, brighter, greener, more beautiful future. See you around. Kirstynn out. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end of the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you head to the show notes, check out the links of things I might have mentioned in the show, go follow us on social media, and yes, do at me. I'd love to hear from you, what you think, if you want to be a guest with me, if you have suggestions for future episodes, that would be great. Other than that, we do have a Patreon link as well below if you're feeling like helping support the show, and I can't wait to see you around for next episode. Thanks, bye.